God of weather, Henry knows. Snow globes don't shake on their own. God of weather, Henry knows. Snow globes don't shake on their own. Guys, we did it! We listened to an album! I have so much to say, but let me just tell you, even though this album has only been out for 2 hours, I can already tell you this is, without a freaking doubt, the most freaking genius, best, only good rock album to come out in 30 years because it literally is so genius! What the heck is a snow globe? Maybe it has something to do with God, maybe it has something to do with Isaac's heart being cold or something. But it sure is deep and intelligent and combining all the genres of music that my friends on the internet tell me is good. So let's listen and review. Henry knows. This is a masterpiece. Let's start by taking a look at the album cover. What? It's a plane in a bag! It's a plane on a bag on a door! I'll tell ya! What could it be? Is that a Concorde? A theme he continues to repeat throughout the album, which is a genius motif that represents flying away from life, because life is hard and I have anxiety! Whatever it means, it's undeniably deep. Could it be a reference to In the Airplane Over the Sea? I'm hungry for this album. So, alright, I'm done with this crap. Alright, I'm gonna be honest with you folks. Whatever you think of this album, no matter how you feel about it, can we just chill out? Can we please just chill out? I want you, I'm happy for you to feel excited that a band you really like released an album you're looking forward to, but let's chill out. You cannot go saying that this is the best rock album of decades literally a few hours after it released it. And by the way, I'm about to critique this album. And if you're someone who really needs to hold on to this mirage that they have just happened to stumble upon one of the greatest albums ever released, and that it's deeply tying their emotions in, some deep way or whatever you believe, and you can't handle hearing criticism over this album, you've projected everything you want it to be onto this album, then you should probably just X out of this video because and by the way, I like this album. There's a lot of good stuff that happened to this album, but I'm about to critique it. You have been warned. So, brace yourself and let's get started. If I had to describe this album in one sentence, which is pretty difficult because there's a lot of stuff going on in this album, but if I had to try my best to describe it in one sentence, I think the best I could do would be, imagine if a Broadway producer hired Arcade Fire to collaborate with post-rock artists to make a musical about having anxiety. That is this record in a nutshell. A lot of very theatrical, lots of very musical influences, and I'm not just saying that because it sounds very theatrical, I'm saying that because, you can just tell listening to this album, they've got a lot of very professional, band kids, music kids, who spend a lot of time actually listening to musicals and performing musicals, and if you actually listen to this album from start to finish, it sounds a heck of a lot like you're listening to a soundtrack to a Broadway musical. As someone who's listened to a lot of Broadway musicals, as someone who's actually performed in theater, I know what that sounds like very well. And there's actually nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Because Broadway musicals, they are very, very well put together. You take extremely talented composers who are extremely good at writing very compelling and complex songs with a lot of emotion, and then they combine it with some of the most, just prestigious musicians who can perform really well at their strings or saxophones or vocalists or whatever. If you put them in the pit, this band sounds like a pit of 8 musicians who would be in the pit of a theater playing the compositions. This music actually does sound like someone went down and put the musical notation and gave it to each musician to perform. It does sound very composed, very professional. And like I said, there's a lot of talent in writing a musical. That's not an easy feat. But I don't listen to musicals. Even though they're so good, why don't I listen to musicals? Why do I choose to listen to 90s alternative rock and punk instead of putting on the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack? If the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack is, in many ways, just as good, if not better, than 90s punk. Well, I don't know exactly the answer to that question, but I will say it's probably because I'm a punk, and I kind of want to listen to artists who have something to say rather than a group of band kids kind of sounding like they're doing homework, trying to figure out what bands is going to appeal to the Rate Your Music kids, and just kind of collaborating on making an album that kind of puts all those pieces together in one album that is surely going to be, Anthony Fantano's favorite of the year and all that stuff. I don't know. I feel like the 90s punk artists who've gone through some shit, putting their heart and soul into music, it sounds a little bit more appealing than some rich band kids who all have come together and done their homework to write a musical. Let's kind of bring it back a bit. Because I don't want to give you the wrong impression here. I need to reiterate. There's actually a lot of very, very good things happening in this album. I think Snow Globes is probably their best song. It is their best song to date, the best song on this album. That song does a very, very good job overall of actually letting their crescendos kind of just swirl in patience. Like, this song is very patient with letting the crescendo very gradually build up, and the melody that's repeated over and over again with these lyrics that just sound very philosophical about God and life and love or whatever. The way the emotional delivery gets more and more intense, and there's all these instruments that kind of just come together. It just sounds great. Like, there's a lot of very, very well written songs on this album, but there's also a lot of okay songs that they kind of just do this thing where so we got the string section, now they come in, and then we get the sax, and we're just gonna add ingredients that sound like this is from Godspeed You Black Emperor, this is from Arcade Fire, this is from Slint, this is from emo, this is from prog rock, this is from psychedelic rock. We're just going to pick stuff we've heard from previous musicians and stack it on top of each other until we crescendo. That is a formula that I can just read right through. I read right through it, and guess what? Formulas aren't always bad. Formulas are not always bad. Some of it is really good. Snow Globes is a great song. Basketball Shoes is a great song. But that's not what connects to me as an artist. You can write a very catchy song. Concorde's a very catchy song. Snow Globes is a very catchy song. You can have very, very professional musicians play their little horn sections on top of it. Is that gonna be one of the best rock albums of all time? Ideally, you would bring something kind of unique to the table that's like distinctly you. And right now, there are lots of bands who are doing what you're doing. I just reviewed last week, what was it called? The Death Crash, which my critique was it sounds like, this is another British band that's just kind of picking all their favorite 90s bands and just putting it all together in their release. And you can do that and it can sound really good. But that's not a masterpiece. So again, I ask you, imagine if a wealthy Broadway producer hired Arcade Fire, Godspeed You Black Emperor, to collaborate on a musical about having anxiety that takes influence from prog rock, from post-rock, to post-hardcore, to emo, to art rock of the 70s, all these genres, and they work their ass off to make a very well-produced musical. That would frankly be a pretty good soundtrack to listen to. But I wouldn't listen to it because that is just not punk at all. And I want this vocalist to stop quivering at every sentence because there is nothing in this music that's nearly emotional enough to make it sound like you're on the verge of crying the whole time. So I'm giving this an 8 out of 10 because I would feel bad giving it anything lower because on a lot of technical levels it certainly is there. And a lot of these songs are very catchy. And a lot of these moments I actually do stop and think, oh, that was pretty cool. But a lot of the times I'm just waiting to see, what band are they going to borrow from next to stack on top of this other sound that they're stealing from another band on top of another band they're stealing on top of another, blah, 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 blah. Stealing isn't the right word. I don't believe in stealing. But I will say I really feel like this is some rich white kids culturally appropriating American punk music for their goddamn Ivy League music project. If that's your taste, go for it. For me, I don't know. I'm giving this an 8. I have a lot of contradicting feelings about it, but I think I've kind of gotten it all out there. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. And if this upset you because you want to believe you just stumbled upon the greatest album of all time and that you have witnessed history with this album coming out, I'll let you keep that illusion. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching Punk Revolution Now.